Today, using a scale of 0 to 5, every iteration of the Ford Mustang, brutally if not ruthlessly ranked on their styling, performance, and the all-important gotta have it factor. At the end, I'll announce the winner, or the Mustang model with the highest overall score, and a loser, the one with the lowest. We'll go in chronological order of the breed, starting with the one that started it all.
We interrupt this program to bring you this breaking news bulletin. Dateline, February 6, 1964. Dearborn, Michigan. The Ford Motor Company's Ford division announcing today that it will introduce a new line of cars this spring. Lee Iacocca, vice president of Ford Motor Company, said the new line of cars will be called the Mustang. No further details on the new car line will be revealed until the time of its public introduction at the World's Fair in New York City on April 17th. We now return you to your regularly scheduled car vlog.
Hard to imagine a world without the Ford Mustang, as it would be a world without the internet, cell phones, phones in general, indoor plumbing, or electricity. But up until April 17, 1964, the world had never known of a car quite like the original Ford Mustang. The right car at the right time to tap into coming-of-age baby boomers. Let's also not discount that prior to its launch, Ford promoted the Mustang with one of the largest and most expensive advertising campaigns in history to that point. And it all worked spectacularly well. Ford selling more than 120,000 of the sporty-looking little cars that were, let's be honest here, little more than Ford Falcons with a sexy body. Ford sold nearly 560,000 for 1965, more than 607,000 in 1966. 5. 2. 5. 12. Model year 1967 brought the first major revision to the car that created the pony car segment, and as difficult as it must have been to improve on an instant classic, Ford pulled it off with these beauties that are, arguably, better looking than the originals. And that is saying a whole lot, especially the 2+2 fastback models like the 68 that Frank Bullitt, portrayed by Steve McQueen in the 1968 cop movie Bullitt, drove. Roughly 2 inches longer than the original Mustang, what made these cars appear substantially larger was that they were nearly 4 inches wider. That extra girth allowing Ford to stuff some of these with their 390 and 427 cubic inch V8 engines. Although Ford sold more than 472,000 Mustangs in 1967, that was off by more than 135,000 from 1966. Times were changing though, as the 67 Mustang faced stiff competition from General Motors and in-house competition from the Mercury Cougar. The entire performance car market segment was about to cool off as well. 5. 3. 5. 13. As wonderful as the 67 and 68 Mustang was, our favorite pony wandered off the ranch for the first time in 1969. While a far cry from what it would become in 1971, the 1969 Mustang, still considered a first-generation Mustang, was a significantly larger car than the 67, to say nothing of dwarfing the original. Ford stretched the body out nearly 4 inches and introduced what they call the Sport Roof, essentially an evolution of the 2+2 fastback dating back to 1965. There was also a convertible and a luxury-themed coupe they called the Mustang Grand, or Grande. While still oozing more Steve McQueen cool than any Mustang for decades to come. The 1969 and 1970 models did portend of a Mustang future that was muddled, if not confused. And all this in the days before government-mandated safety regulations really kicked in, to say nothing of OPEC. 4. 3. 4. 11. Again, performance cars were becoming somewhat verboten by the early 70s. The counterculture believed they were part of the establishment. The establishment thought of them as appealing to America's thuggish, beer-guzzling underbelly. Trying to be all things to all people, never a good idea. Ford came with the larger, heavier, and plusher Mustang, what we refer to as the Big Mustang, for 1971. A couple of inches longer than the 1970 model, what made these appear larger than they were was they were some 4 inches wider. That wideness was marketed as improving the car's handling. In fairness, in a vacuum, they weren't bad-looking cars and may have been heralded as watershed designs had Ford called them Thunderbird or Torino. However, compared to every Mustang that came before it, these cars didn't have a chance. Sales were not a third of what they were just 5 years prior. 3. 3. 3. 9. The Mustang II. What I like to call the Mustang number 2, or simply the Twosie. On paper, the Mustang II was a good idea. A smaller, more nimble car that was as if Ford brought the Mustang back to its original form, so to speak. They tried to make it luxurious as well. And the problem wasn't that Ford used their snappy handling, somewhat zippy Pinto as its foundation either. The problem was its overall execution. The Mustang II, introduced for model year 1974, being fair, was not the worst-looking American car on the road at the time. But compared even to the huge 1971 to 1973s, these were no Mustangs. Luck being as important as anything in life, the OPEC oil embargo struck just as these came out, and at first, sales-wise, these look like the second coming of the 1964 Mustang. Then gas prices stabilized, and while sales were somewhat better than the 1971 to 73 models, they were nothing compared to what they were back in the 60s. 0. 0. 0. 0. On the hoofs of the Mustang II for 1979, Ford introduced what we refer to as the Fox Body Mustang. It's called the Fox Body because, ostensibly, Ford engineers used the Audi Fox as design and engineering inspiration for it. Ford would use the Fox Body on a number of different cars over the next quarter century or so, making it one of the longest-running platforms in automobile history. Now, frankly, most anything Ford would have come with for 1979 would have been an improvement over the Twosie, but these cars more than fit the bill. They featured rack and pinion steering, McPherson struts, unibody construction, and were a radical departure in a good way from any Mustang that came before it. Ford made a number of incremental and not-so-incremental changes over its 15-year production run, helping it to become the longest-running Mustang model of all time. Roughly 4 inches longer, 3 inches less wide, and riding on a 3-inch longer wheelbase than the Mustang II. If you're looking for the missing link when it comes to bridging the gap between the Mustangs of the 60s and 70s and today, the Fox bodies are it. 3. 3. 3. 9. As much as we liked the Fox body Mustangs, by the late 80s and into the early 90s, we were ready for something new, and oh, how we look forward to these cars. Especially when we got word that Ford would use the original Mustang as inspiration for it. I mean, what could go wrong? Well, these cars, known internally as the SN95, were no 1964 to 66 Mustang, although it was no Mustang II either. Talk about damning with faint praise. And that's the problem with retro-futuristic. You miss the apple on your target's head and, well, you get the picture. While a vastly superior automobile to the 1979 to 93 Foxes, the still Fox body-based 94 Mustang lacked that James Dean cool that defined the breed in the past, save, of course, for the Mustang Twosie. Through my foggy goggles, these came up even short of the 71 to 73s. 2. 3. 1. 6. All right, so remember what I just said about the 1994 to 1998 Mustangs? Along with stronger engines, the updated for 1999 Fox Body Mustang did everything right, the 94 model did wrong. These cars were so cool, even the V6 models were something you would be caught dead in. Sheet model was all new with bigger side scoops, wraparound headlights, a larger grille that was part of a chunkier front. The rear end was updated too, making the whole package look more like, a Mustang. Whereas the 94 model looked like something that was supposed to be a Mustang. Ford revised suspension, tuning, and upped the horsepower of their 4.6-liter V8 too. Still seriously outgunned by the Camaro Z28, Firebird, and Trans Am though. These cars still rode like a truck with square wheels, but that was all part of the Mustang charm, right? 4. 3. 3. 10. All good things must come to an end, so they say. And by 2004, the Fox Body Mustang was very, very long in the tooth. Bless their hearts, there was only so much Ford engineers could do with a design that had DNA in it dating back to 1973. Enter the D2C-based Mustang for 2005. D2C was for D-Class, two-door coupe. D-Class is a European designation for large cars. These cars were also known internally as the S197. The fifth generation of the Mustang emulated the fastback Mustangs of the 60s. Ford's senior vice president of design at the time, Jay Mays, called it retro-futurism. And whereas Ford's first attempt at going back to the future was an out-and-out failure, Ford hit a grand slam right out of the park with these. Essentially, it was as if Ford stayed with the late 60s motif into the 21st century. And this is what it would have looked like. Longer and wider and not much heavier than the Fox body it replaced. Despite not having an independent rear suspension, the S197 Mustang was as big a leap forward as the Fox body was in relation to what came before it. I love this design so much that I had a 2005 GT for a spell. A fun weekender I bought as a daily driver. Again, fun weekender. With a oh-so-stiff ride and odd sitting position. As a daily driver, not so much fun. That purchase wasn't the first time I'd made that mistake. Hopefully, it won't be the last time either. 5. 3. 5. 13. Look, I get that it's hard to improve on something as wonderful as the 2005 Mustang, Ford's first clean-sheet Mustang since 1979. The update for 2010 seemed like a change for the sake of change. While the interior was improved, trust me, it needed improvement. The exterior styling was more of a minor facelift gone wrong, or could have gone better. Kicked up rear fender lines that were said to have been inspired by the 1969 Mustang, and the beveled front and rear improved drag coefficient by some 7%. Okay, but the overall effect through my fogged-up goggles was like too much makeup on an otherwise attractive face. There's a point of diminishing returns, and Ford crossed that line. Granted, for 2011, the first 5-liter Coyote V8 was available, but even that couldn't overcome the exterior styling faux pas. Iffy styling combined with too many of the rough and not-so-charming edges of the S197 made for a forgettable car. Sales of the 2010 to 15 Mustang were, model year to model year, a good half to at least a third off the pace of the 2005 to 2009 iteration. Let's keep in mind, though, that the 2005 vintage Mustangs had next to no competition, as Chrysler didn't come with their retro Dodge Challenger until 2008, and Chevrolet didn't roll out their throwback Camaro until 2010. 2. 4. 3. 9. What they called internally the S550, the 2015 Mustang was longer, lower, and wider than the S197, thanks to its independent rear suspension. An available 435 horsepower engine could run circles around any Mustang before it. Most importantly, the S550 featured to-die-for styling that combined just about every cool design element any Mustang had before it in a completely luscious, compelling package. If the S550 had any downside, it was being nearly 200 pounds heavier than the S197. That really only mattered on the track. Around town or on the interstate, this was the best performing and, my opinion, best looking Mustang ever, save for the Steve McQueen Bullet era Mustang. And it only got better as its 5-liter Coyote V8 gained more horsepower through the end of its production run in 2023. 5. 5. 5. 15.
Come look at the lights!
Dinner's gonna get cold.
We get it. They're Christmas lights.
You want to hurry this up, Clark? I'm freezing my baguettes off.
Be nice, Dad.
Well, can't leave out the Mustang Mach-E, although I really want to. All right, I get that Ford wanted to create awareness for their first full electric sport utility vehicle, but did they have to call this a Mustang? Funny, though, the world didn't end like I predicted it would back in 2021 when Ford came out with these things and called them Mustang. Hard to argue that the future of whatever is defined as a personal or familial transportation conveyance is not electric, but I do think we're rushing things a bit here. And how long are these things going to last anyway? I've got more than 250,000 miles on my 2009 Toyota RAV4 V6. Will we have 250,000-mile Mustang Mach-E's? Well, jury's out on that one. But now, I'm not dropping 60+ grand on a new one. And as of right now, that being July of 2024, gently used Mach-E's that are 1 to 2 years old and with less than 5,000 miles on them are going for less than half that. Anyway, design-wise, there are worse-looking vehicles on the road today, and as most electrics do these days, it'll suck the taillights out of just about anything gas-powered. Go ahead, call it a Mach-E. But please, don't call it a Mustang. 3. 4. 0. 7. What Ford calls the S650 is more of an evolution of the S550 than an out-and-out all-new car, but whom am I to argue with Ford when they update a Mustang as amazing as the S550 was? There's enough gee-whiz modern techno stuff in the most recent Mustang as to make it more like driving a video game than an actual car. Can a car be too good? Well, if you're looking for something just to get you from point A to point B, get the kids to soccer practice and the family jaunt to the Poconos, no, they can't be. But the problem in making automobiles too good is they all but remove the driver from the actual driving. And if you're looking for an automobile that will engage and enthrall you viscerally, and in more ways than one, then something as technologically dense as the most recent Mustang is all but too good. Kids today love all this techno mumbo-jumbo, however us older muscle car lovers may think Ford took things too far. The updated styling is clunky, not as bad as the 2010 update of the S197, mind you. The oh-so-advanced interior is modern to the point of being sterile. Just about the whole car is controllable through the massive TV in the dash. The ride is nice, but handling, as incredible as it is, leaves the driver feeling disconnected, as though, again, they're driving a video game. 4. 5. 2. 11. Now that we've run through our gauntlet of Mustangs, it is now time to announce our winner and loser. Let's start with the loser, because frankly that's more fun. Maestro, the death tint, please. Thank you. Our loser is, no surprise here if you were keeping track, the 1974 to 1978 Mustang II. Why, I was all of 9 years old when I first saw a commercial for one of these in the fall of 1973. I wasn't all that enamored of the 1971 to 73 Mustangs, but they were certainly better than these little turds pretending to be a Mustang. Even in Fastback Guys and having appearances on Charlie's Angels couldn't change my opinion of them. Once again, not bad-looking little cars in and of themselves, but why did they have to call them Mustang? Maestro, death tint one more time, please. Thank you. Mirror, mirror on the wall of the service station bathroom, what's the fairest Mustang of them all? No surprise here. It's the 2015 to 2023 S550 Mustang. These cars combining all the cool retro cues of Mustangs of yore in a contemporary package that has more than enough old-school driving dynamics charm still dialed in to make it really interesting. These cars are a blast to drive, even the non-GT versions. Nice job, Ford. Tapping our ball caps to the man, the myth, the legend, Steve McQueen, our runner-up is the 1967 and 1968 Mustang. Well, there you have it, a rundown of all Ford Mustangs and an officially tabulated best and worst of them. Feel free to comment below, like, and subscribe. Doing so helps our little channel grow. We appreciate you.